With your help, we can continue to fight for freedom, reach new audiences, and bring important information to the public free of charge. This is not possible without your generosity. Join our quest for the truth and our freedom and donate today.
Before we get into our program and our guest, I just want to recap something. Remember Keir Starmer, when he came and told the farmers that we would not have any tax rises? He betrayed all the farmers and he lied to the British public.
Basically, the government, Keir Starmer came and told the farmers at the NFU conference that we would not have any tax rises. Right. And he sat in the hall in front of 3,000 NFU members and lied for an hour. And he's betrayed us. He's lied to the British public. And I don't own my farm. I'm only the caretaker for the next generation. Yeah. My parents did without in the 70s to keep our farm so we didn't lose it. My great uncle died on the battlefields of Flanders to keep our farm. Our farm was bombed and strafed by the Germans during the Second World War, and we didn't lose our farm. And we're not going to sit down lightly to lose our farms. And if Keir Starmer sold every farm in the UK, there will still not be enough money for the National Health Service. And the farmers can't pay for all their mistakes. And it's about time the people of this country woke up. You need farmers. We produce cheap, healthy, good food.
So, if you met Keir Starmer, what would you say?
I'm a British farmer and I was asked what I would say to Keir Starmer if I saw him, but the reality is I have no words to say to Keir Starmer other than please just start to understand us, because the farmers that he hangs around with are probably not farmers at all. They might be wealthy landowners that use farming or agriculture for a tax relief break, but that isn't the norm for most of us. Most of us are actually working farms. Most of us are actually producing food, and we care about genetics and we care about the health and we care about the production of crops and we care about what we're doing. Some farmers are not farmers. I've worked for people like that in the past. We used to work for this man. He was called John, not my husband John, different John. And John was a city banker. He worked in London, yet he had 60 sheep just for the tax relief of being a farmer. That's who you think you're penalising. But the reality is he doesn't actually care. He's using agriculture as a loophole and he'll just find another loophole. We as farmers are not using agriculture as a loophole. And I'm coming to you as a person that's not due to inherit a farm. My mum's a cleaner. She's not going to leave me a farm. She doesn't have a farm. She's not a farmer. I'm not going to pay inheritance tax on inheriting a farm ever in my life because I'm just not. But I can see and I can listen to my fellow farmers. I can just see the sheer panic. And even from the landowners that rent their farms out to like tenant farms, I can see the ripples through that. I've spoken to countless other tenant farmers just this week that can't find tenancies. They can't find other tenancies. Their tenancy is ending. Their landlord has given them notice. They don't want to extend their tenancy. They can't find anywhere to move. That's terrifying. The landowners are scared. They don't want to rent their farms out on long-term tenancies. Tenant farmers are normally people coming into the industry. They don't have the security. I'm a British farmer and I was asked what I would say to Keir Starmer if I saw him, but the reality is I have no words to say to Keir Starmer other than please just start to understand us, because the farmers that he hangs around with are probably not farmers at all. They might be wealthy landowners that use farming or agriculture for a tax relief break, but that isn't the norm for most of us. Most of us are actually working farms. Most of us are actually producing food, and we care about genetics and we care about the health and we care about the production of crops and we care about what we're doing. Some farmers are not farmers. I've worked for people like that in the past. We used to work for this man. He was called John, not my husband John, different John. And John was a city banker. He worked in London, yet he had 60 sheep just for the tax relief of being a farmer. That's who you think you're penalising. But the reality is he doesn't actually care. He's using agriculture as a loophole and he'll just find another loophole. We as farmers are not using agriculture as a loophole. And I'm coming to you as a person that's not due to inherit a farm. My mum's a cleaner. She's not going to leave me a farm. She doesn't have a farm. She's not a farmer. I'm not going to pay inheritance tax on inheriting a farm ever in my life because I'm just not. But I can see and I can listen to my fellow farmers. I can just see the sheer panic. And even from the landowners that rent their farms out to like tenant farms, I can see the ripples through that. I've spoken to countless other tenant farmers just this week that can't find tenancies. They can't find other tenancies. Their tenancy is ending. Their landlord has given them notice. They don't want to extend their tenancy. They can't find anywhere to move. That's terrifying. The landowners are scared. They don't want to rent their farms out on long-term tenancies. Tenant farmers are normally people coming into the industry. They don't have the security. I'm a British farmer and I was asked what I would say to Keir Starmer if I saw him, but the reality is I have no words to say to Keir Starmer other than please just start to understand us, because the farmers that he hangs around with are probably not farmers at all. They might be wealthy landowners that use farming or agriculture for a tax relief break, but that isn't the norm for most of us. Most of us are actually working farms. Most of us are actually producing food.
So there you are. It's looping. I knew I forgot something just so close today. So that's what would you say to Keir Starmer? Okay, what I would say to him probably isn't printable. And we'll find out in a second what Dr. Alan Moran would say to Keir Starmer. We're going to talk a bit about integrity and who's going to police climate change if scientists can't agree. Who's going to be the constable to say, that's climate change, that's not climate change, that's cookers. That's what we're telling you. So we'll just play this. This is a fascinating piece of video, and then we'll talk to Dr. Alan Moran.
He took the ABC question on notice, Chair, and I'm asking about the EMO report, and it's a very simple question. Did anyone, there's a number of people listed on your submission, did anyone, and I'm happy to take this on notice, but did anyone themselves read the EMO report I just quoted from before writing this claim and accusing my colleagues, and maybe myself, I was a minister at the time, accusing my colleagues of misleading the public?
Chair, the Senator Canavan is using language which, to my mind, is attacking our scientists. The very thing that they just called out a few moments ago, Senator Canavan, there's no accusation here. It is a statement written in a report.
Sorry. Can I just respond to this, Chair? It's not me who started this, Senator, with all respect. They have accused my colleagues.
It's not an accusation.
Hang on. You've made your point of order. I can respond to it. They have accused me in the submission of misleading the public, or at least my colleagues of misleading the public. I think I'm fair to ask them about how they came to that conclusion. And I'm asking a very simple question. Did anyone read or look at that report that I just quoted from that you used as a basis to attack my political party, my colleagues, of engaging in misleading conduct?
You've made your point, and let's let the witnesses...
Can I get an answer?
let the witnesses respond, please. Who would like to respond to that?
I'm waiting for that.
Well, I'll just repeat. Given that our report was written by 14 contributors, I would like to take that on notice and follow up with my contributors who...
I'm more than happy to take it on notice, but you've made a serious allegation about my colleague and my political party. Okay. I would hope that as university researchers you've got some evidence for it. As I say, I think it doesn't...
You've made your point.
Facts here. Now, well, as I say, Chair, I think I have a right to respond when my political party is attacking this way.
You're supposed to be asking questions.
Interference on the issue, which shows
taken it on notice, Chair. There's no need to use this as a platform for a tirade.
It is very, very one-sided.
You've got 4 minutes for questions left, Matt. You've got 4 minutes for questions left.
I'd appreciate no more frivolous points of order. So my point here is, if you can't yourselves not engage in misinformation in your own submission, how can anyone judge it? Now, I'm not trying to silence you. You can make whatever claim you like about me. The problem I have with the underlying philosophy of this inquiry in your submission is that who is going to police misinformation? When clearly you've made a misleading statement in your submission, as I've just outlined. We all make mistakes, that happens. But how can we rely on anybody to assess what is misinformation when you yourselves can't seem to adhere to the basic rules yourselves? Who's going to police this information?
Yeah, this is just platforming.
Is that a question to the...
Come on.
Sorry, is that a question to the witnesses, Senator Canavan?
Yes. Who's going to be involved with it?
Just platforming.
Who's going to do it when you yourselves have made mistakes?
Right. So are you claiming that was a misinformation or a disinformation?
Yes,
Senator?
I am.
So it was an inadvertent mistake.
I read directly from The report they quoted,
the Uni of Melbourne report,
and it is clearly misinformation. I mean, I hate that
doesn't
term.
make
It's just wrong.
as an
It's just wrong.
assertion. It quotes
They've made an incorrect statement. But
So, Senator Canavan, could I just ask the witnesses to respond to that? So
I would love that, but I keep getting interrupted by yourself and Senator Anarjo.
No, I'm just trying to get some order to this. And you've got 2 minutes left of questioning.
Just confected.
So that time's been taken by others, but go for it. Okay.
So would you like to respond to that, John, or Jennifer, or Rebecca? You quoted from a report. Would you like to respond to that?
I've done a lot of talking, Jen. Did you, or Rebecca, did you want to have an answer first?
Incredible, Dr. Alan Moran. That's a disgrace. That is an absolute disgrace. What do you think?
Well, I mean, the whole point of this inquiry into disinformation and misinformation is there to try to create something that doesn't exist. You asked a question initially, and it was pregnant with the right answer. Who is to police all this? Well, nobody can police it. Nobody should police it. The whole intent of this inquiry is to try to create a straw man of disinformation, misinformation, financed by, they say, the fossil fuel industry, to actually keep out renewable energy and, in their view, to actually bring about increased greenhouse gases in Australia, which is supposed to throttle the whole world. It's totally absurd. And it's more than totally absurd, because we're basically now in the context of a new situation whereby our major ally, the United States, is totally disavowed this source of energy and closed down all of the subsidies which it had, as we still have, to support the renewable energy, wind and solar. Without those subsidies, there would be no wind and solar. They cannot possibly exist in competition with coal or nuclear or hydrogen or hydroelectricity, etc. They can only exist with the subsidies. And the more you put on of these renewable energy, the higher the price goes, because they're subsidized, and being subsidized, they knock out the coal and gas to some degree, maybe uranium too, nuclear. They knock out these in a competitive fashion, not because they're more competitive, but because they've been given the subsidies. So, the whole of this inquiry is just an absurd one. They've got about 200 submissions right now. They've only invited 13 people on there. All 13 people were of the same philosophy as Senators Wish Wilson and Ananda Raja, who you saw there interrupting Canavan quite severely and viciously. The only ones there are supportive of that. And indeed, one that was featured was a fellow called John Cook, who invented a notion that 97% of scientists agree that we have to stop emitting carbon dioxide emissions, or the Earth will boil. Well, this 97% is a total fraud. He took about 11,000 papers and distilled them down till he got to about 160 of those he liked, and he said, okay, all but about 10 of that 160 were supportive of his view. Therefore, we got 97% were supportive of his view. It just makes no sense whatsoever. It's a sloppy piece of research, and indeed, it's one that has been disproved many times. So we've got this inquiry has been set up as a straw man. It's just totally out of context with where we are in Australia now in terms of the American alliance and in terms of what Trump is doing, and indeed what we can see in the United Kingdom already down the pike are coming these changes to their renewable system, where the Conservatives have suddenly adopted it. The major party right now is Reform in the polls, and it's certainly disavowed them for many years. So we can see a revolution coming out saying we don't have we are moving away from this notion that renewable energy will in any way be competitive. Even the Treasury put out a paper saying that the government's line that we should adopt this, but hidden in there was a notion that, but to do so we have to have a carbon tax. Remember the Gillard carbon tax, of $300 per ton of carbon dioxide. Just translated, that means a fivefold increase in the cost of energy.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's been discredited. It has been for a long time. However, do you think that will make any difference? You got the people like Bowen, you got Albanese, and all those dimwits. You have also the various state governments, those that are Labor in power. For example, Victoria with what they're doing. Your state with what they're doing with the interconnector there and all the farms and so forth, and it just goes on. Now, common sense would say that they are out of line. It's wrong. Stop it. I'm looking at all these papers right now, and it is not stopping. In fact, the amount they're going to spend initially, $1.38 trillion. So everything you're saying is correct. However, you got these dimwits in power, and Bowen. Look, it makes me even more taller than 4'1", because he's on the world stage and he's behind elbow like Dickie Knee out of Hey It's Saturday, Mr. Albanese. But he's got something that is such a turn on for him, along with Albanese, that they have the biggest project in the world, and we're going to show the world that we're going to save you all. That's what I think, and I think it's all an excitable operation for them, that they're getting the jollies off, as they would say in your country, just because they've got this huge project, 1.38 trillion. And
for what? It's actually for energy, which is very, very expensive. It pockmarks the whole of the environment. You have any farmer. Any real farmer is massively against it, because it actually does destroy land around their farms, and in fact it will require the buying up of farms to actually build these mega wind farms, windmills. The fact, as you say, we're becoming out on a limb in Australia now, with the United States having changed, UK, Japan's about to change. They've got a new leader that will change as well. So, we have this inquiry which is designed to actually vilify those people who are speaking the truth. Somebody like you. I mean, the notion behind this inquiry is we've got to stop people reporting that renewable energy is bad and that we don't need to actually go on this direction. We need to stop people like you making these statements on air, and we ought to have an e-commissioner to do
you'll
that.
have them after me. Stop it. I mean, I'll have more after me. Can't believe it. But you're dead right. I'll mention this. I talked to my brothers, and I pointed out that, for example, in Sydney, that mark on that fort, when they showed you where the oceans rose, and it hasn't changed.
Exactly.
In it for 100 years, just about.
Yeah.
So, and then he said to me, "Well, you can't go by that." I think, well, then what can you go by? So what we're seeing is that these ostriches, and at the moment these ostriches have a political party in power that are just as stupid as they are. But the worst thing, Alan, is who do we have as opposition? Because they're as stupid as the government.
Well, this is a problem that many of the opposition is bought and paid for by the same forces who are in favour of renewable energy, and so we do have that problem in Australia now. They have it less in the United Kingdom, because Farage has just driven right through and said, no, this is all rubbish, and he's brought the Conservatives with them there in the UK. So there will be a change in the UK. The writing is on the wall there. Here it's much more difficult to do. We do have outstanding people like Matt Canavan, who you had on earlier on the programme there, but they're actually in the wrong house. So how does it actually change? I don't know yet, but we do need people in there to actually explain it. And we actually do get, as time goes by, more and more experience of what is happening. We can see the increased power bills. And the fact that Bowen and others would say, well, the cheapest form of energy is renewables, and we're going to have a lot more of it. And yes, you mark my words, the prices will go down $275 per household, or whatever they're quoting at the present time. People will see this and will recognise that this isn't so. And more importantly, industries which are dependent upon low-cost energy will start disappearing. We can see them now. We can see the nickel industries have gone. The aluminium industries are now threatened. And in fact, many of the processing industries, agricultural processing, and other mineral processing, are also threatened because energy is an important part of their costs, and we've got double the costs of energy in the United States.
I totally agree, but I think you can have all the sense in the world. We ain't going to budge the people in power at the moment. And you mentioned that the people are seeing this, and I sort of think they are. But the comfort zone is, I will believe government. If you just go back a couple of years to COVID, trust us. Put this thing in your arm. We'll give you this injection, and we don't know much about it, but take it anyway because it's really good for you. And according to one example, is VAERS in the US, they had 38,000 people drop dead because of the COVID injections. But people will still they're still calling out for lockdowns. I'll go to a lockdown. Got to keep that virus inside, or keep whatever inside. The people they want to keep inside. So yes, you are right. They are seeing it, but the comfort zone is got to trust government. Can't go out on my own. And that's the problem, isn't it?
Well, it is, but the thing is, I've got as little faith as there's a great common sense of the electorate as you have, but even so, they do eventually get things right. I mean, they can see when things are going wrong. We can see, for example, you just described the situation in Australia. That was precisely the situation in the United Kingdom only 3 or 4 years ago. I think there were, out of a parliament of 600 people, there were like 20 who took the same sort of view as you and I. Now, there's still not many in the parliament, but now we can see from the polls that there is a vast majority of, if there was an election tomorrow, vast majority of MPs would be highly sceptical of renewable energy and would be seeking to roll back the subsidies and increase the energies which is presently verboten in the UK, like coal and fractured gas, etc. Even actually the UK energy minister, who's as deluded as Bowen, even he is now saying, "Oh, maybe we ought to do a bit more drilling for gas around the North Sea." So reality does catch up. And it sometimes takes far too long to catch up, but it does catch up. And I can see we do need a leader in the lower house who can promote this in Australia. We don't really have one at the present time. Canavan's in the wrong house, and there are others who are also in the wrong house to actually be the leader of the coalition there. And at the moment, we can say, that there is some trends in Australia, but you're quite right that the trends aren't there. I mean, I think last night there's been talk about a resurgence or a surge in support for One Nation, who are clearly on our track on this issue. But we can see One Nation increase their share of the market, the polling by 4 percentage points, but then the other sides increase their share of the market by 10 percentage points. So we're still not even going towards arresting the dreadful situation we're in here, but you've got to be confident in the end that people will see the reality and say, well, this lot has put us in power. We put them in power, and we're going downhill, and we've got to get rid of them. After all, we did get rid of the Whitlam government. We did get rid of the Red Gillard government when their excesses were shown to be quite harmful.
Yeah, I actually think though, I think Labor, unless we have a better opposition, I think Labor, as with the UK, they will go on about the UK that we'll get rid of Starmer. They're not going to get rid of Starmer yet. There's really no one to. I mean, I've just read some stuff about reform there. They put a reform. There goes a motorbike. That's just the guy bringing some milk over. Should close the window next time. In the studio too, it's incredible. But I'm just thinking though that Starmer, I think he'll be there because I think people have that comfort zone, and reform are now starting to fall apart in bits and pieces. And you have in Australia. I mean, if you look at our opposition, Susan Ley, she changes her name, and wanted Andrew Hastie to change his name, put an extra S on it. So what we have, and then we have her communications minister or shadow minister said, we need to control the internet. We've got to stop all this misinformation. It is the government who is providing the misinformation. And the same thing goes with climate change. The same thing goes with these unreliables. And we're not going to get around it. And our next guest will tell us that the UK is quite stuffed, but you've got to have the will of the people to actually change it. And I think at the moment, people are very comfortable. They are very comfortable. And we'll let the government, because the government will pay us, they'll give us money. Eventually, Alan, as you know, it won't happen.
And that misinformation you talked about, I mean, the Page Institute and others have looked at the misinformation, that is the propaganda, and they found about 100, Pages found 170 million, others have found even more from agencies, from overseas funded agencies, one being the Sunrise Institute, basically promoting the renewables thing. And although Wish Wilson and Amanda Rad said they basically are looking for all this dark money on the other side, they haven't found any yet. And I'll tell you, I've been in this business for a long time, and nobody's ever offered me truckloads of money to promote coal or anything else. So basically, there is no money from the other side, but there's a lot of money coming from interested parties in the wind industry and from overseas hedge funds, etc., who basically financing all of this material. And that's one reason why many in the coalition are a bit edgy in terms of trying to get on board, of saying, calling this out, because there's a lot of funding directed against them if they do so. So, you know, that's a real problem. That's a real problem of misinformation in our political economy.
And I think by not reporting on what's happening is also is misinformation. It's the propaganda. So you just tell them what you want them to know. If you look at what's happening in Queensland with the Great Dividing Range, they're just chopping the top of it off and putting these windmills up. As one guy said the other day from the CFA, he said, what happens when you have a fire? Because these things 260 metres high. If there's a fire, you can't put your aircraft there. If you're stuck smack bang in the middle of the Great Dividing Range, surrounded by forest and woods and whatever, you're not going to be able to put that out. So they haven't really thought this through, which is a shock, isn't it?
And also the people supporting it are the environmental organisers, the Greenpeaces in this world. Basically, they cut their teeth on trying to preserve the. Now they're trying to actually destroy it with more and more windmills. To what purpose? Basically, because they're stuck on this ideology that wind is the future and it will be cheap, but it won't be cheap and it can't be the future. It's basically the only future with wind is deindustrialization.
I think we have a lot of wind in Canberra. It's all full of hot air, but unfortunately, that hot air is going to send us into some sort of dystopian future. Just want to ask you one other thing. If we're looking at governments in power, and I've been whinging about and making a point too, by the way, that whether it's Conservative or whether it's Labor, they're basically painted with the same brush. Tell me this: which do you think is the government listens to the most? Do they listen to and I'll put this to Alan shortly, do they listen to the people, or do they listen to the money?
Well, I think the two go hand in hand. They listen to the money, of course, but the money they know can actually influence the people. And that's basically what we've got now. We've got these hundreds of millions of dollars, much more than is financing election campaigns, being allocated towards telling people, you've got to do this, you've got to do the right thing, you've got to get rid of coal, you've got to get wind and solar and rooftop solar, etc. And those people is coincident. It's a chicken and egg. I don't know which one comes first, but the money and the votes come together because the money is directing the votes at this present time and will continue to do so until people wake up and find out that, what they're selling is a pup, which doesn't work.
Is it, if we were to modernise the chicken and the egg, would it be the ostrich or the egg?
Because the ostrich in the buried head.
Alan, it's been a pleasure, always a pleasure. It's been far too long too, by the way. You need to make yourself known to us more often, because a great conversation, and you make some fantastic points. If somebody wanted to read your, besides going to the Spectator, of course, how do they get hold of your information and your writings?
Well, it's on my website, which is www.regulationeconomics.com, one word, regulationeconomics.com. Most of the stuff I've written is there, and submissions, etc., is all there to be looked at and to be used by anybody.
Absolutely fantastic. And what about just if somebody was sitting listening right now and they thought, we'll check you out on X, how do they do that?
It's Alan Moran, just Alan Moran, or Regulation Economics, both. Alan Moran, Regulation Economics on X.
Yeah, fantastic. Alan Moran, always a pleasure. Thank you very much, sir. This is not the world today, not the country practice. This is the Country Telegraph.
At the moment we're another morning, another tank, so she'll be good. It's a piece of cake to operate. Basically 2 control valves I operate and the PTO. Can't get any simpler than this. Good for dummies like me.
Effluent's more than just waste. Used well, it can feed your farm, save you money and build better soil for the long haul. We're here in Deloraine, Tasmania on John and Chantal's farm, where a Nevada single axle tanker and PTO stirrer are helping make the most of what's already on hand. Let's take a look.
Hi, my name's John Doingdam and I'm part of the Four Sons Trust, me, the wife and kids, and we're here in Tasmania and we have a wonderful product behind me. Welcome to the farm. Well, we're 160 hectares and we farm underneath the Western Tiers. The contour of the farm is flat to just a shade of a roll and we're all irrigation, well 70%. We make all the feed on farm, silage, hay. The only inputs we buy in are the pellets and the cows get about 1 kilogram a day. And we're just in transition. We're going over to robotic dairy and we're putting in new effluent ponds. We have a very small pond I have to empty every other day. First pond will be 1 megalitre. The second pond will be 3 megalitres, so it gives us 4 megalitres of storage. The majority of our cows are Fleck Bay. They are a dual purpose Austrian breed. We plan to milk 180 cows spring, summer and autumn, with about 60 in the winter. They're just a wonderful breed to be around. They make me smile, and I like that. They soon get hooked onto this stuff. Let's go. Before we had the tanker, we had a little traveller, and it was trouble. Every day fixing it, something going wrong, so we got rid of it. I gave it away. It wasn't worth the money. Now I get off this machine and I'm clean, and the missus says I'm okay. Here on the farm we have the PTO stirrer from Nevada and the 10,000 litre tanker, and they are brilliant. What I like about the PTO stirrer, it's simple, it does a good job, easy to maintain, so it's a great unit. The benefits we've found with the tanker: soil health, vet bills are down, grass when we need it, and I can get it all over the farm. Every single nook and cranny, I get it. Nothing's wasted.
You're saving money with having the tanker?
Oh, heaps. The contractor's roughly $500 an hour, and he's got big equipment, big wages. I understand that, but this is far more flexible. When the good people from the contractors came, it cost me $8,000 to empty my effluent ponds, and I didn't get it where I wanted it. 3 times a year, and it's about approximately $8,000, so that's $24,000 in 3 years it's paid for. So you can't get better than that. That's better than interest rate. We've been in a green drought, but with the tanker, the dry land has stayed green, and when the rain came, it shot away. I normally cut 400 bales of silage, and this year I did just over 800. That proves it. We got the effluent from our ponds tested, He just said he couldn't believe the results we had in effluent, and I don't need to buy fertiliser. He said we've got more than enough phosphorus, potassium, so it's all good, all good. This is the way to go, makes money. The advice I would give with other farmers and considering a tanker is go and talk to somebody with it. You know, most farmers will tell you the truth about anything, and if there's anything wrong with it, I'll be the first one to tell you. It works for me. My son didn't wreck it.
All right, so there you go. Big thanks to John and Chantal for having us on farm today. It's a simple setup that's helping turn effluent into real value, right where it counts. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Just love Tasmania, love rural Australia. I mean, I can say rural too, by the way, Lynn. It's an amazing part of the world, and so is the UK. And I think farmers themselves they're under attack, whether you're in the US, whether you're in the UK, or even in New Zealand, Australia. It's a very, very hard life. Just before we get into our next guest, I just want to play you this clip here, and it's all about it's about the future of farming. It's the young people who are important to farming, not only in Australia but also to the UK.
Are you a young farmer? Well, if you are, listen now. Farmers to Action needs young farmers. We've got a new website. We're now a new company. We are fighting for farmers across the country. We are taking this IHT battle and all these stupid policies to the government. We are fighting. Young farmers, this is your chance to now make your voice heard. Go on to farmerstoaction.co.uk, join our website. It is free until Christmas, so you can become a member of Farmers to Action free until Christmas. That's all young farmers. Let your voice be heard. This is your last chance now to make a difference. You know, you are the next generation of farmers that are taking on this land. And if you don't get your voices heard, we're going to lose it. It's as simple as that. So if you're a young farmer and you're still watching this video, get yourself to farmerstoaction.co.uk and sign up for free and let your voices be heard and stand together.
How serious a threat is government to farmers in the UK?
Well, farmers are going out of business at a record rate in the UK at the moment, with the rise of the supermarkets and corporations buying up farmland for solar panels and the supermarkets holding down the price to the British farmer. We simply can't afford to produce food at a sustainable profit, and our government's policy of telling us to diversify to survive. Basically, we're not going to pay you enough to feed your family for the food you provide, so get a second job to feed and provide for your own family and feed mine at a loss.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's everyone's saying how Starmer lies and the government lies, but he really is no different than any other Prime Minister in many ways. What's he, I mean, but this time, whereas Pollies would lie, they just would have trouble lying straight in the bed, as they would say. But we see this time that there seems to be another agenda, and that's to say, we're going to make your life quite miserable. We're going to get rid of. Already you've had 6,000 have gone out of business since he's been in power. And he's going to be there for another few more years, and he can do an enormous amount of damage to the industry. How do farmers protect themselves from the damage he is doing? Because you can't vote him out, and no matter what anyone says, and even though he's the figurehead, it's the Labor Party that are doing this too. They're the ones that are behind Starmer, giving him the ideas, create damage. So how do we protect ourselves as farmers?
Well, we need to actually stand together once. If the organisations who are meant to represent farming were doing their job, they wouldn't have protest groups and lobbying groups like myself coming to the forefront. We've been pressuring the MPs for the last 10 months. We were only a grassroots movement 10 months ago of farmers protesting for our rights. We've now become an association owned by the membership and have attended all 4 of the main party conferences. and organised large-scale protests which have put an awful lot of pressure on the Labour Party. The backbenchers are already saying that they are not happy in the direction the country is going and have already pressured the government to make changes. And I would hope to see, if we continue large-scale protests and lobbying combined, because neither work without both of them in combination, we can get some real difference to help save British agriculture and guarantee a future for the next generation.
Yeah, our Prime Minister and the State Premier, Jacinta Allen in Victoria, had a big get-together to promote what they're doing for the regional areas of Victoria. And you may have seen it was something out of a Monty Python or a Benny Hill skit, the tractors chasing the Prime Minister's BMW down the main stretch of Ballarat. Do you think that Starmer, if he was to drive into a village or something, you would have a convoy of angry farmers, maybe a couple of beers under the belt and some big Massey Fergusons, or in Jeremy Clarkson's case, the Lambo chasing him?
That's if we could get to him through the crowds of people after him. He's the most hated man in Britain. You've only got to look at the protests in London and the major cities, where they're stating only hundreds of thousands turned up. If you look at any online videos, it's clear to see there is millions. He is currently going against business advice, the public advice, just for their own rhetoric and land grab. The only people making money at the moment from the farmers going bust are people like Bill Gates and BlackRock, who he had private meetings with just before he done his last budget and won't disclose what he said. This is about money, most likely assistance for party fundings and other things which we can't know because they won't disclose the conversation, in exchange for them to buy land where farmers have gone bust for carbon capture and solar, which then takes the land out of food production and pushes up food inflation, which is rocketing worldwide.
I'm just thinking, because you have your own business, and to be doing this, which is, I'm not too sure whether you appreciated the time that you needed to put into it, but it's very serious. I mean, the amount of time and the demands on you, because you're a rapidly growing organisation. Can I just ask you, and you don't have to answer me, but by putting in the hours and I know you're protecting your future and the future for your children, but is this also impacting on your business because it's a full-time gig you have now?
Yes, I'm doing the farm work. We're tenant farmers, so we are pushing to keep the business going. I'm also diversifying to survive by doing machinery, manufacturing as well. And I'm doing this almost every evening. And I've got a hands-free set while I'm on the tractor, which is constantly off the hook. But all of the volunteers are the same. But we are passionate that if we do not do this, there will not be a future for the next generation. And I like here and with you, farmers don't do it for the money. They do it to make a better life for their children and their children's children. And the way this government is going, they are collapsing our whole economy. Farming is a primary industry. It's well known worldwide that for every pound a farmer invests, it creates £7 in the local economy. As we are not only not investing but going bust, our entire economy is shrinking, and you're looking at larger unemployment and more issues for the public and mass increase in food inflation. And it's not just here, it's worldwide. And the government stating they'll import food is a joke when all the countries around the world are struggling to cover the cost of food inflation. We need to use better use of the ground and produce more food to keep the business sustainable at a fair price that farmers make, rather than the processors in the supermarket, taking all the cream while we're left with the thin milk.
The other issue too, because whether we're getting a bit delicate as we as the planet evolves, as mankind evolves, but to entice the younger generation, and if they're looking at their dad or their mum or the neighbours going through what you're going through, surely they must have second thoughts to say, well, maybe I could eat glass, or jump into a shark-infested pond, because it's a very tough gig normally. And what's happening now is making it very, very, it's not appeasing to a lot of people. How do you talk, what do you say to a young person, say your children or someone that's thinking about doing farming? How do you convince them that it's a really good job and you're going to have the support of everybody, which you're not, because government doesn't want you around?
Honestly, in this current market, I wouldn't be pushing them towards it. All I can say is if you're passionate for the industry, we must fight to improve it. Because it's a common phrase, evil only succeeds when good men stand to do nothing. If we sit back and let these changes come through and don't fight to improve our industry, then there will not be an industry for the future. But if we want to fight now, then we all need to stand together, all organisations, all young farmers and the public, to demand fairer prices for the farmers and the public. Should be maximum markup schemes on food, so the processors and supermarkets aren't making billions a quarter while farmers are struggling to survive and upgrade their machinery. If we had a more balanced price bracket, then we'd have a fair open market rather than a mafia cartel of price setters holding the farmers down. If that was altered, then there would be more in the future for farmers. There'd be a profitable, sustainable future for the next generation. And that's what we need to achieve.
And it's all very well saying they should diversify, but there's only so many, you can only have so many restaurants and so many, and you've got to have the funds for that too, by the way, and they know how to do it. I mean, look at Jeremy Clarkson. He's the one, obvious one. He diversified. He also has a lot of money behind him too. And he has Amazon behind him to pay for the production of the series. So, and people use that as a model, but it's not a fair model. I mean, a general farmer hasn't got those resources to diversify. All they know how to do is to grow.
Yeah. And a tenant farmer doesn't own the land in the first place, so they can't diversify. We're in the same boat. Our diversification is making things and fencing contracting as well for my father. But what we need to get is a reasonable price. It's a case of the supermarkets are buying beef per animal around £2,000 a beast to £2,500, and then within a space of 2 to 3 weeks they're selling it for £8,000 to £10,000. It's not a fair markup. Now, if they were paying farmers a fixed minimum price balanced off the end price, so a maximum markup of 200 to 250%, if they bought it off me for £6 a kilo, the max they could sell it to the public is 21. Currently, they're selling it for around £26 to £30 a kilo. So the public would get it cheaper. The farmers would have a higher price if they wanted to put the price up to the public. So both sides benefit, and you have a balanced scale so people know where they stand. And that would boost the entire economy because the general public could afford food cheaper and have spare money in their pocket to spend on leisure, which boosts the whole national economy. It's just addressing the unfair bias of the supermarkets and large chains making billions while the farmer goes bust.
Surely there must be consumer laws that would protect farmers, and I do agree with you. But if there are no consumer laws that will protect farmers, and these large supermarkets are owned by generally people from overseas, so that they don't care about the UK, they care about the bottom line. The UK family farm and the way of life, it's obviously under threat. You've said you wouldn't suggest younger people go into it at the moment. How fragile is then the entire industry? And if you're looking, say, if it keeps going the way it is, just say if Starmer did get in, even though he's hated, you have to have a better opposition. It's all very well saying that Reform are going to do this and do that. If you don't go out and vote for them, they won't get in. And just say, say 3 years down the track, if it keeps going the way it is, how worse off will the UK be, and how worse off will the farming industry be, do you think?
Well, if it keeps going the way it is, you'll be seeing mass riots from the general public because food inflation is going through the roof. And the more they pressure farmers out, the less food is produced and the more the price of food goes up. You can't eat a solar panel, you can't eat a wind turbine, you certainly can't eat a tree. So if they're not twigging pretty quickly that if they're not backing British farming, they're destroying their economy and driving up their cost of living to everybody in the nation. I think I would hate to think what the state of the country is going to be, because at the moment it's definitely on the brink of civil unrest. I've never seen anything like the tensions in the public at the moment, let alone amongst the farming community. And we are seeing record numbers of suicides from farmers because they can't take the pressure. Now, if these governments haven't got the morality to realise the damage they're causing, then they do not deserve to be in their posts, and something has to change.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Just thinking, we in Australia we have and in Victoria, I was talking to a farmer about that thing called the interconnector, which is this renewable garbage, big power lines going to go through properties and they can't stop them and so forth. And we were talking. I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "Well, we don't know." And I suggested, being a farmer, 12 gauge, and he knew exactly what I was talking about, and you probably do too. But without being frivolous, it's getting to the stage now where not only farmers but the entire cross section of the population of various countries are being treated like a piece of dirt, and they have to, if they don't stand up for themselves and say enough's enough, you've got to stop that. So do you think, I mean, we're talking about farmers, do you think in inverted commas, without being an alarmist, do you think a revolution of some sort, or you can't really protest because you'll starve to death, so do you think a revolution of a sort is what is needed to shake the government into some sort of positive action?
Well, we know that the supermarkets only stock food for around 2 days. If you disrupt the food chain with the Suez Canal and with various protests before, the supermarkets are bare within a state of 24 hours. Now, we can encourage the public to stock up on food supplies on there, but our go slow protests are definitely rolling out again and escalating. We've told the government that tractors can't be moved. You've got a variable transmission tractor, you can't tow it, it's too heavy to lift with a crane, and there's no way for him to get it out the way. So if we decide to do go slow protests and they do silly things to the government and they keep to press these farmers which are desperate and considering the last resort for themselves, and they've got nothing left to lose to not park a tractor or drive a tractor where they wish, and there's very little that the government or the police could do about it. Now, we do not endorse any actions that are not legal. There's plenty of go slow protests that we've organised before and can scale up, which would put an awful lot of pressure on the government, and there will be some coming in the next few months before the budget. Of increasing frequency. And if the budget goes through in its current fashion, I would expect the largest winter of discontent that we've seen since the mining crisis.
It's interesting. I was talking to some friends the other day, and I mean, I'm starting to sound like my dad, and he's not here now. So I don't want to sound too much like him at this stage, but it's days when we were growing up, it was less complex. It is now so complex, but it's not the technology so much. It's the people, the government, the elite, and the big business, and so forth. All the red tape you have to go through. That has made it more complex. Don't you sometimes wish we could go back to, 20 or 30 years ago when it wasn't so complex, and that your word was good and a handshake was great?
It would be lovely, but unfortunately, it's jobs for the boys made by bureaucrats and officials and civil servants creating work and income for themselves and not creating benefit for the farmer or the customer. But that is how governments work.
Now, Alan, if people want to support you and also chair, also the Farmers to Action, sorry about that, how do they do that? How do they get hold of you?
We've got our own website set up. We've become an association which is run by farmers for farmers. You can have membership support options. You can donate on there. You can join as a public supporter or join as a farmers member. Members will be able to vote on there through automated online systems. So you actually influence the decisions being made rather than relying on a board doing it for you. And we are now working on discounts for members, as well as getting group contract negotiations. So farmers can band together to negotiate their own fair prices with the supermarket and large corporations to stop them dictating to us without any comeback.
Well said. I just love farmers, and I think we need to show a lot more respect around the world, and we need to stop putting our heads. I said to which you would have heard, Alan Moran, I said, we used to say, is it the chicken or the egg? Now, is it the ostrich or the egg? Because what we see is a lot of heads in the sand, and we don't need that anymore. Alan Hughes, Vice Chair of Farmers to Action. It was a pleasure, sir, and I would love to do more of this. Thank you very much.